pretty well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can hear you well, and we are live. We are being recorded. Ladies and gentlemen, for all of you who are tuning in right now, welcome to another episode of Leaders in the Force. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Lieutenant Colonel La Fran Marks. He's currently stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, and he's here to share his perspectives and his experience to help edify and educate the next generation of leaders as they make a decision about their branch selection. So, sir, thank you for donating your time and your experiences towards this effort. I'll open up the floor to you for any opening remarks.
No, hey, first and foremost, thanks for this opportunity to be here and talk to you. I know you guys are all at a crossroads in your professional careers. One, you're just starting out. Two, you're trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your career, which is a tall task or an asker of the Army from you to try to figure out what you want to do. I would tell you, do what your heart desires. The only way for you to be successful in any job that you go and perform in or that you take is that you have to want to do that. And if you don't want to do it, you won't be successful. I don't care if it's being a combat arms officer, being a logistics officer, being a CEO, or even being a COO at an organization. You just will not be successful. So if your heart's not in it, I would encourage you to look at other things. But if your heart's in it, give 110% and then some, and then you'll be successful. So again, thanks for the opportunity for me to stand here and speak to you.
Absolutely, sir. I also want to start with a framing question and explain for our audience. So the purpose of this Leaders in the Force initiative is twofold. The more general purpose is to just increase the exposure that cadets all over ROTC programs nationwide have to perspectives from all the different branches. But then I have also a narrower and targeted purpose because I am assigned to Florida A&M University, which is a historically black university, HBCU. I have a targeted purpose of seeking out perspectives from African American, Hispanic, NCOs, and officers. So, sir, with that framing in place, you obviously support this effort. Can you please talk about why you support the initiative of trying to promote accessions into the combat arms of historically minoritized communities?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm a product of an HBCU as well. I went to Miles College, located in Birmingham, Alabama. And our program was so small, we had to go across the street. I said across the street, a couple miles away, to the University of Alabama in Birmingham, where we had to participate into the program. When I was going through the program in '98, we only had 2 minority officers going through the program, one of which is still in the Army, which is me. I will tell you, coming through that program was very, very enlightening. One, I learned a lot about myself. Two, I learned a little bit about what it means to be a teammate, what it means to be a part of a team, want to do something and be a part of something that's bigger than you. I support this primarily because the Army needs minority officers. The Army needs some diversity and inclusion into its force. Diversity officers bring a plethora of experiences. One. Two, your experiences and your upbringing allows you to assess and see things from a different lens, and you provide a different perspective, which is what the Army needs. The Army needs someone of your caliber to represent them, not as a handout, by no stretch of the imagination. But what we need is we need talented officers in the Army, and you happen to fit that bill. That bill being, like I said, a minority officer, which will ultimately add additional diversity into the organization. I think as a whole, I want to say the officer corps, about 8, maybe 10% of minority officers make up the senior officers in the military corps. When I say senior officers, I look at field grades and above. Obviously, that number gets smaller the more you go up in rank. So there are less colonels, there are less 1 stars, 2 stars, and I think there's only like one one 4-star right now. So the Army needs you, whether you realize it or know it or not. The Army needs you just as bad as you want to be a part of the organization.
Thank you, sir. And taking this one step further, I'm going to take a contrarian perspective just for the purpose of this discourse. Not something that I personally believe, but there will be those who say the door is wide open. Why do we as an institution need to encourage or promote this when it's available, right? Like infantry armor is available to African American, Black cadets, Hispanic cadets. So why is it important for the institution to focus on it?
Well, I will tell you, it's important because, again, our organization is a direct representation of the American population. So you need that. You have to do that. A lot of people talk inclusion, but it's more about not inclusion, but it's more about preventing exclusion, is the way I kind of view it, right? Yeah, you can include me, but don't exclude me from it. So I will tell you, for those who say that we have opportunities for all to excel, I think the truth is that those opportunities only present themselves at certain times to certain people. Individuals, make no mistake about it, there are differences within the organization. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. I don't think that the Army as an institution is set up like that, but I think the people that are in the organization may share different beliefs, which unfortunately prevents folks from excelling. So I think you have to have that. You have to force it. You have to ensure that individuals of all backgrounds are included. So you need that into to the program. And number two, you can look at it right now. Like I said, if it was so available, then you would have more minority officers at the senior ranks. And that's just evident to show that it is not all inclusive, because you just don't have that talent. There are talented minority officers in the Army. There are. The question is why are they not making it to the senior levels? There are plenty of studies that are out there that show that minority officers are failing, and they're failing because maybe they don't have the mentorship, maybe they don't have the opportunities. I don't think it's because of education. There's a lot of reason why people write studies and publish documents that highlight why they're failing. But I think if you look and peel the onion, the underlying issue is that the mentorship. So you have to have that mentorship across multiple spectrums, and you have to be able to reach down. So if someone says that, hey, we have the opportunities for people to excel, I would tell you that we need to do more. We have to do better than what we're doing right now, and we have to do it now.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to go ahead and answer my own question, because for the cadets listening, I think this is answered or explained if we peel back why. This is explained with history. So it's no surprise that, or it should be no news, that the military was not integrated until 1948. An executive order was signed in 1948 by President Harry Truman to integrate and allow Black soldiers to join combat arms. So I think, it is February, it's Black History Month, and I see the Army is celebrating, Tuskegee Airmen, and celebrating Buffalo Soldiers, but I think it's important to be a little bit more transparent and raw and recognize, what? Black officers weren't allowed to lead combat units in the 1930s and 1920s. So when we can understand that, then we see why that residual legacy of exclusion still permeates today, right? I'm not saying the doors are closed today, but we still feel the effects, because now when you talk about, sir, your family, you might not have a long-lasting, reaching legacy of service in the infantry, as I've heard with other families from other ethnic backgrounds, right? I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel Means yesterday, and he said, he was fortunate to have his father and his grandfather serve in the infantry, but that's a special case for Black officers because of this exclusion in the past. So I think understanding that and understanding why we're at a deficit now will help people accept these efforts. Because I know the contrarians are out there. They say, why do we need to focus on this? It's wide open. The door's wide open. Well, no, not really. We're missing this cultural capital. So I want to transition to this concept of cultural capital. It's a term that was born out of the literature surrounding higher education retention and how minority communities either go in or stay in a higher education context. And we can apply it to the situation of accessions into combat arms. So basically it goes like this. If your parents never went to college, it's going to be hard for you to make the jump and apply for student financial aid and get your applications in on time because you don't have anybody behind you showing you the way, right? I am an immigrant. I was born in Colombia, and my parents didn't have that cultural capital of this is how you graduate from high school and go to a college in the US, and these are the steps you need to take. In a similar way, I think we lack, or the Black community lacks that, of there's not a long-standing history of service in combat arms, and therefore we lack the cultural capital to promote it internally amongst families. So then what we have is students. When I ask my students why what do you want to join? Well, not the infantry, because they all they see and all they hear about the infantry is Forrest Gump, like just very narrow anecdotal experiences. So this is the nexus or the crux of my project, to expose, to educate, and to debunk some myths about what service in the combat arms is really like and how it's marketable. Because I think a lot of our cadets are interested in that. They're interested in joining the service as a mechanism for upward mobility, the same way I was. I knew I had to find my own way through school and I had to support myself. The Army was that for me. And now we can transition to these questions that you, as a senior officer in the infantry, having held battalion commands, you are equipped to answer how your experience can be directly marketable to any employer. Because my cadets, when I ask them, they say quartermaster because logistics in the civilian sector, AG because human resources in the civilian sector. So sir, I think you're perfectly positioned to answer how you, having commanded at the company and battalion levels, can translate that experience.
Yeah, I will. I'll tell you from my perspective. So I've had an opportunity to serve in a lot of different unique assignments. Like some phenomenal soldiers. Had an opportunity to do some great things. I will tell you. Well, first and foremost, I come from a background of military service. Dad spent some time in the Army, about 10 years. Uncles and aunts spent some time in the military, but none really that stayed in really for 20 years, right? So we're still feeling the effects of that what you call the cultural capital, and how changes in 1948 have led to today. So we're still feeling the effects of that. But just a little bit about my background. But I'll tell you from a military perspective and as an infantryman. I've had the opportunity to be a platoon leader, company commander, multiple times. Also had the opportunity to command a battalion and serve on a brigade as well as division in a 3-star staff. So I would tell you, as an infantryman, the experiences that I've had in each one of those jobs has allowed me to be what I think is very, very marketable when I exit the Army. I would tell you from a civilian perspective, you take the job that I'm in right now, which is the deputy commander for 199. So that job is equivalent to a COO, or a lieutenant governor, right? So I'm the 2IC responsible for 4,000 personnel, which include military and civilian. So what that job and the other jobs prior to that has taught me, it's taught me about leadership, it's taught me about leading organizations through change, leading diverse organizations, whether that's green suiters, blue suiters, civilians, contractors. It's taught me how to manage and deal with those individuals. Why? Because I had to learn two different types of policy, right? I had to learn the policy about how do you manage green suiters, how do you treat soldiers with dignity and respect, how do you discipline and or reward soldiers. The same thing applies for civilians, which is a totally different avenue that you walk down, right? How do you manage those individuals? So that's from the HR personnel side of it, in terms of discipline and managing. From the human resource side of it, turning about hiring, firing, and stuff like that. That job also has taught me how to do that. That job has taught me how to lean back on my experience as an assignment officer. So as an infantry guy, I was an HR manager. I managed individuals' careers. I positioned them and sent them to different programs, kind of like the patent program. So I sent individuals to that program to participate in it. I put individuals in assignments that that led them to be successful as a battalion commander, and hopefully they go on to be brigade commanders as well. So I had to manage their personal careers as an infantry officer. So that's one thing. That's another thing that's a market report. The Army has sent me to college on a program called the ACS program, the Advanced Civil Schooling. So I earned a master's degree in public administration and a master's in human resource management. So again, as an infantry officer, I'm dealing and operating into the AG realm. When you talk about planning, my time and experiences on multiple staffs. So that crosses all spectrums, everything from logistics to operations. So I'm doing the same thing that a logistics officer would do. And in fact, I have to consider how a logistics officer's actions, planning considerations, how that applies to the operational perspective in terms of executing missions. So I'm touching again the logistics, I'm touching against the military intelligence, I'm looking at the AG Corps, I'm also looking at transportation corps. So I'm covering all those spectrums as an infantry officer. So when you couple all of that together, what that has taught me, it has taught me to be an effective leader, right? So it has taught me leadership skills at various levels. One, looking up, seeing how leaders above me perform, act, and govern themselves in terms of different situations, crises. And then subordinates, how do I mentor, coach, and guide them through the exact same process, and oh, by the way, manage their careers and ensure they're being successful. So I would tell you, if you're considering to be an infantry officer, that's something that's on your mind. One, you have to want to do it because you will spend time training, you will spend time in the field, you will spend time leading, hands-on direct leadership. You will do that 100%. But what I'll tell you, what you will get in return is you will get a lot of leadership skills. You will get a lot of skills in planning. You'll have an opportunity to serve in some very unique and diverse assignments. You'll have an opportunity to build organizations, work through organizations, and frankly, visit some cool places. So I would tell you, from my perspective, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it. And just for the record, I was commissioned an infantry officer. I was branch detail, right? Branch detail to the AG branch. So what I did was I was a platoon leader. Did that for 18 months, transitioned over to a place called 510 PSB in Germany, and I was an executive officer for that organization. I deployed that organization to Kosovo as an infantry officer, deploying a coastal personnel support task force to Kosovo. Infantry officer, leading AG folks, right? So had no experience in that. But what the leadership saw in that perspective is that when I say leadership, the battalion commander or the brigade commander saw is they saw an infantry officer with leadership skills, is what they saw. And that's what every organization needs and deserves, is an effective leader. So, fast forward, coming back, I enjoyed my time in the infantry so much that I said, hey, I wanted to stay in the infantry, and I requested to be an infantry officer. And the paperwork went through, and 15 years later, here I am now, post battalion command, serving as the deputy commander for 199.
Thank you, sir. So your experience is testament to the fact that a combat arms officer, and specifically a maneuver officer, is kind of at the nexus of the combined effort. We interface with AG, transportation, logistics, intelligence, because they support our efforts. So as a maneuver officer, you're going to have opportunities to gain experience in those domains, but at the end of the day, the maneuver leaders are making the decisions. So when you say COO, second in charge, this is something that, if that doesn't like flash bright red, like marketable in the civil sector, then it should. And the next question, sir, would be, can you speak to the distribution in the Army of command positions, and how the distribution of the brigade command team, the brigade combat team, as a modular unit, there's, I don't know, 6-to-1 command positions for maneuver leaders versus support leaders. So if somebody's interested in being a decision maker and translating that experience into the civilian sector, then I propose that going combat arms and branching specifically maneuver is the way to go. Because in a brigade combat team, we have, the line battalions, just one support battalion. So it's just going to be hard to get that command experience as a maintainer, as a supporter. Sir.
Yeah, I will tell you, under that scenario you laid out, there are, well, really, I guess in every scenario, there are always more command opportunities in terms of maneuver versus support, or combat service support, right? There just are. Why? Because every organization out there supports the infantry branch. And not to sound, cocky about it or anything, but that's what everybody else does, right? They support the warfighter, and they're there to help them to be successful. So when you talk about command opportunities, I go back to start with the end first, right? What is your goal, and what do you see success as? So if your goal is to stay in the Army, and which I hope each one of you have sat down and kind of laid out what you think your goals are and what you want your goals to be in terms of life in the military and post-military. If you haven't done that, I encourage you to do that. At least have a framework going forward. But if you're looking at opportunities, if your goal is to be a battalion or brigade commander, or even make general officer, 1, 2, 3, or 4-star, if you want the opportunity, or the most opportunities to reach and to achieve those levels, it's clearly it's done through command. I mean, because more combat arms officers are in those positions. You look at the Army senior leaders right now. Hell, the G1 is a combat arms officer. So the senior AG guy in the Army is a combat arms officer. Now obviously not that in the G2, I mean, because that's a special skill set. But you look at the G3, that's a combat arms officer. Obviously the 4 is a logistics officer. The 6 obviously is going to be a special SME. But the point I was really trying to get after is that if you want the opportunity to command, you want the opportunity to excel and achieve success based on how you see it. For me, I saw it as being a battalion commander, and the way for me to do that was going through battalion command. So the way for me to do that was being a combat arms officer. Why did I choose that? Because again, I had more opportunities in the company. I mean, as a combat arms officer to command, which is the route to senior leaders in the Army, and I took that route. So when I was a company commander in the 101st, exact same experiences. We had some very solid logistician officers, very solid AG officers, MI officers, but the reality of it is the only place that they could command was either in one of the 4 or 5 companies in each one of the battalions, right? So if you're an AG guy, the only place you can command is in you could do a postal company. You can do some S1 stuff but you're not going to, more than likely, not going to command a company as an AG guy, right? It just ain't going to happen, which is the reason why they don't put a lot of emphasis on command, because it's not likely to happen. Now, not saying you won't, but you can't. It's not likely to happen. You can command some stuff at, if you're in a unique installation, but the norm is not for that to happen. And here's something else I also encourage you to think about. When you talk about leadership, when you talk about the opportunities to excel, when you do the math, if you spend 20 years in the military, right, and you count up the opportunities that you'll have to command as a combat arms officer, so leading troops. So you'll get, if you're lucky, you'll get 24 months as a company commander, as a captain, right? Traditionally, you'll get 12 to 18, but if you're lucky and you're doing well, you get 24. And then you go off to another school. As a lieutenant colonel, if you're lucky and you get selected for battalion command, that's another 24 months you'll get, right? So we're talking 48 months of command opportunity. And if you're lucky, which is, everything lines up, you'll get a brigade command, and then you'll have another 24 months on top of that to command. So the route to command, again, is for combat arms guys. If you want to command, if you want to lead, really for all, I would encourage you to do something in the combat arms realm. Other than that, the rest of those 15 years you got, they're going to be spent on staff. So I would encourage you to seek that opportunity. I think that opportunity exists in the combat arms realm. So for me, I would tell you to go combat arms.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's 9:30, sir. If we have time for one more question, sir, let me know.
Yeah, no, I'm good. So I don't have anything else to do.
Thank you. So we've talked about the involvement with other domains inside the enterprise. Next, I want to transition to the intangible skill sets that an infantry officer gains throughout their training, especially at the junior officer level, because you're a proud infantryman. I see it on your back wall. You were assigned to HRC, so you are a qualified source for this question. What intangible soft skills does an infantry officer possess that is not necessarily found in officers of other branches?
I will tell you, first and foremost, I think probably the humility associated with leading, developing, coaching others. I think infantry officers bring a unique perspective to guiding and developing subordinates. One, the experiences that we have are not similar to other branches. So, I think of, as a combat arms officer, you talk about traditionally you go to infantry school, you go to ranger school, you go to airborne school, you go to air assault school, and all of those are teaching you about being, having empathy, teaching you about caring for others, discipline, personal courage, and stuff like that. I think those things will kind of jump out at you. The other things that you will pick up that you really do not realize that you're picking up is how to manage others in terms of professional development. You are going to do things that you just really, really, really do not realize that you're doing. For example, participating in this particular forum. That is something that I will tell you that most, well, that's probably not a good thing. I would tell you just participating in this particular forum is something that you'll do throughout your career. Having the opportunity to spend time with subordinates and developing, leading, coaching along the way it pays big dividends. So there's a couple of things, like I said, that you'll pick up. The humility, the mental toughness, the physical toughness, the personal well-being, the discipline, the trust, all of that stuff you'll pick up. Those are things that you'll pick up. The other things, my assumption is that the training that you've been through, the opportunity that you've had, they're going to make you a solid officer because you're going to know and learn and understand your craft. You learn how to apply direct and indirect fire weapon systems. So those things you're going to just kind of learn. But I think the more intangible things about, you know, leading, developing others, those are things that you'll kind of pick up and leverage as you work your way through the military, and then when you get out. So again, what I always tell my guys, everybody that comes in the Army has a shelf life. We're like an MRE. At some point in time, you're going to go bad. The Army is going to say, we no longer need your service. Everybody will get that notice. The biggest thing I would tell you is as you make your way through the military, try to figure out what skills you can pick up along the way, right? Whatever branch you decide to go into, try to figure out what skills you can pick up. Because what that's going to do is that's going to help you be successful when you decide to transition out of the Army. Some of you guys are going to come in, do 20 years. You're going to want to go spend time in JROTC. You want to leave here and go be a GS, 12, 13, 14, 15, STS. You're going to want to go and do those. Some of you guys are going to go run off and do work in politics, right? All the skills, all the lessons that you've learned thus far, or you throughout your career in the military, is going to be beneficial for you. So my only parting advice to you is to lead well, develop others, figure out what you want to do, and then once you figure out what you want to do, put all of your time and energy into that. Everything you do, put your time, your energy, devote yourself to that. And other than that, you will, if you do anything less than that, you will not be satisfied in what you're doing. I will just tell you that.
Thank you, sir.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So again, I want to thank you for volunteering your time, volunteering your perspective and your experiences to contribute to this effort. It's not only, my pool of cadets at FAMU that you're mentoring through your perspective. It's the cadets that watch this 2 years from now, because this is supposed to last my tenure here. So your impact, your development is far-reaching. So thank you again, sir. I appreciate you for this contribution.
No, thank you again for the opportunity, and for the cadets again. I would encourage you to whatever you decide to do. At the end of the day, just continue to serve your country. Continue to give all you can. Give back to those who have given to you to be successful. So again, I wish you much success in your career. Look forward to hearing and seeing some great things from the teammates that are coming out of there. And again, if you need me or anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to send me a call. Send me an email or give me a call.
Thank you, sir.
All right.